What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Campaign Grind Podcast. I am Pedro Diaz. I am your host, and this is the Campaign Grind. Guys, we are here today with our host, Rey Valdes. What's going on, brother? He gets a little camera shy. As always, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to comment below. We are doing a Facebook Live. We are doing an Instagram Live, Periscope on Twitter. You guys have any questions whatsoever, please comment. We'll be more than happy to answer them live on the streams and also here on YouTube. As I start every single podcast, thank you guys very much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Campaign Grind Podcast. Once again, I am Pedro Diaz. I am your host, and we got a pretty neat episode lined up for you guys today. As many of you know, and as I mentioned last week, we had Election Day on Tuesday, and we're going to be talking about the results, what happened, how we won, how other candidates won, and most importantly, how other candidates lost. And what you can do, whether you're running for office or you're running campaigns yourself for clients, what you can do to make sure you are on the winning end on Election Day. But before we get started on that, I want to let you guys know this episode of the Campaign Grind Podcast is brought to you by Global Compass Real Estate. For all your real estate needs, we buy, we sell, we rent through them all the time. You guys have any questions whatsoever, give Global Compass Real Estate a call. Their number is 786-326-8885, 786-326-8885. I already see that we're getting a couple of questions coming in, but give me a second, guys. We're going to get to those pretty soon. So without further ado, we're going to dive right in. All right. Election Day was on Tuesday. We had several clients in different municipalities throughout Miami-Dade County. It was a very low turnout for the races that we were involved in. The reason why is because some of the races or some of the key races, for instance, like the mayor's races, didn't have much competition. So a lot of people weren't excited to come out to vote. So that could really deter a lot of campaigns or candidates that are running for commissioner, council, or whatever with a low turnout. So before we get into the actual nitty gritty, I'm going to stop talking so much. I'm going to let our host here, Ray, let you guys know some experiences that he's had in the past. But more importantly, what he saw on this election day, on Tuesday, this past election day on Tuesday, what he saw, his thoughts, and then we're going to go into the details of exactly how we could go and make things better for not only you as a candidate, but for all the voters as well. Ray?
Well, good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. I just wanted to mention before, maybe getting into the real beef of the issues, is the fact that, many people may be thinking of running for office, but they really don't know, or they don't have the experience or the team, or they never ran before, and what happens is they start looking at the whole spectrum of a campaign, whether it's a printed media or TV, radio, and all the things that you have to do and to register and to qualify and everything else, and then they get all, overwhelmed. This is the reason why really the campaign grind is here, and this is the reason why really Pedro Diaz dedicated his full time to Diaz campaigns, and this is the reason for this podcast. So you have a source of orientation, a source of familiarization, and it don't cost you a cent really, like I have done myself when I ran for office. For District 113 as a state rep, that I contacted Pedro and we exchanged a lot of ideas and thoughts, and really, truly speaking, at my age, I was very confused. And you kept laughing and telling me, well, that's not going to get you elected.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what are you talking about? I'm quarter century here in the community, participating in all kinds of boards, doing all these things in the community with all these organizations and everything. I found out the hard way that doesn't necessarily get you elected in your district. You have to have a campaign strategist, somebody that really is a professional and knows what he's doing. And I want to recommend you, highly recommend you, because I know that you've had some highly qualified clients that have reached out to you to help them strategize their campaign.
Well, Ray,
And this is a very
I'm
important thing.
gonna go
But I
broke.
wanted to say that. I wanted to download my hard drive.
I'm gonna go broke with all these commission checks. I'm gonna have to cut Ray I feel like every single episode he does a plug. Guys, this episode, the Campaign Grind, is not a plug for us. It's really to give you guys a behind the scenes look of what it really takes to run a campaign.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, you're running for office or you're representing somebody that is going to be running for office. You know, this is kind of like your little cheat sheet per se. You know, I want you guys to gather as much information as possible. Like Ray said, we do not charge a thing for this podcast. The only thing I ask for are podcast or vlog, depending however you're watching this or hearing this.
But I wanted to say, if you're thinking of running, don't just, get overwhelmed and say, well, I don't want to get... Reach out to Pedro, really, and ask some questions and inform yourself, because this is very important. It's very important for people who are interested in serving the community from the position of an elected official to really not back out and say, well, this is going to take too much money, or I don't know how I'm going to go about it, or whatever. Reach out, question the issue, and then after that, you are better qualified to make a decision.
Yeah. Before we continue, I want to thank Michael, Jose, and Loli, Fernando, and our good friend Joe, who hired Joe Carrillo. They're actually watching on Facebook Live. Once again, guys, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, please comment below, comment above, depending whether you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is. You have any questions, let us know. But Ray, what we're going to be talking about, the first topic is actually elections. These past elections that happened on Tuesday, there was very little surprises, but there was a lot of, I guess, for the little surprises that there were huge mistakes, I guess, made on the part of a campaign. And a few of those actually being, and a lot of these topics that we're going to be talking about today kind of tie in together. But the election that just passed, the city of Miami just got elected the new mayor, Mayor Francis Suarez. Miami Beach elected a new mayor, Mayor Dan Gelber. They really didn't have much competition, but they still just crushed it. I think they got well over 80-something% of the votes. The commissioners and the councilmen in the different municipalities, they all really crushed it. I think most of them got over 60-something% of the votes. Some of those were our clients, some of those were not our clients. I'm not taking credit for that. I'm not taking credit for somebody else's race. But I want to congratulate all those elected officials that that just got elected now on Tuesday. What we're going to be talking about is basically, it's all tied together. And the election that just happened, there is this race. It's in my race. It's in my district. It's in my city of Miami, District 3. We have to go into a runoff. There's a runoff election. For those of you that are watching and don't know what a runoff election is or aren't familiar with a runoff election, it's basically once you have several candidates running for office and none of those candidates wins with 50% plus one of the votes. So then what happens is that they have a second round and the top two vote getters have to go to that second round. In the district where I live in the city of Miami, which is District 3, there is a runoff. The first number one vote getter, his name is former Mayor Joe Carrillo, and there's going to be a runoff. Now, the issue that they're having is that the second place winner per se, or temporary second place winner, won by 17 or 16 votes. Okay, so what I'm saying is that the difference between numbers 2 and number 1 is 16 votes. I mean, number 2 and number 3 is 16 votes. I'm sorry. So they have to do an automatic recount because it's less than 1%. So what's happening is that Friday, today, they're going to be doing that recount, and then we're going to figure out exactly who's going to be in that runoff with Joe Carrillo. The way they're going to be doing that recount is by machine. Okay? And I was reading earlier today that basically what's going to happen is that once they do it by machine, if the numbers still don't add up, then they're going to do it manually. Do you believe that there is a possibility of voter fraud that can take place with those 16 or 17 ballot difference?
Well, so much as voter fraud, I think that will come clear if they identify ballots that were not, fully completed or completed properly, or that they, for some reason, the process doesn't identify the voter as the individual voted. So there can be a conflict between, what happened, signature otherwise on the ballot, or not filling out the ballot properly, and so on. So that can make a big difference.
Especially when it's such a small difference. You're talking about 16 or 17 votes.
Exactly.
That could go
either way.
Yeah. There's been, if I'm not mistaken, I think one of the last recounts was last year when our good friend, State Representative Robert Asensio,
right,
beat out former State Representative Congressman David Rivera, and I think it was like 50 or 60 something votes. But now this is a much closer margin. I'm not sure if they have the provisional ballots counted for. I'm not sure if how many absentee ballots were thrown away because of the signature or any of that. So
anything, I believe that there got to be a margin of error, whether it is done by hand or whether it is done by machine. You always figure out that I would always say, well, there's a 3% margin of error on anything that is done. So when I look at this, we're going to have to wait till the final count is in. We're going to see what else can be identified that may disqualify some of those votes, in the total of votes, because it's not just that difference of the 16 or 17 votes that is going to be reviewed. It's the whole count of votes. So that's going to be a interesting thing to watch.
And that's
couple of days.
We're going to find out exactly who's going to be going to that runoff with former Miami Mayor Joe Carollo. Here we go. Oh, we're getting people actually voting for who they want to go into that runoff. So before we go on to the next topic, Ray, we do got a question. Iris, tell us.
We just got a phone call from Linda, and she says, "Who do you think is going to win overall?"
Oh, okay. I guess we're I try to dedicate these shows to more of a I guess national level or state level, but we're talking about a local elections that we're involved in. So who do I believe will win it all in the runoff? Okay, I believe. You know what? I'm going to let you go first.
No, the issue now is we're going to have a recount, so we're going to know who is going to run.
Correct.
Who's going to be the second winner or the second place, and then that person is going to have to go to a special election, which will be in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
and then
I think the 21st.
They're going to run. B. Carollo was the bigger vote getter. He got 30% of the votes. Alfie Leon, I believe he got 20% plus 17 votes. And then Zoraida Barrero, so there is about a 17 vote difference there, or 16 vote difference for the second place.
Yeah.
Whoever gets on the second place, we're going to go to a runoff with a number one vote getter, Mr. Carollo, who is a previous mayor of the city of Miami. And we'll see. My personal opinion, he's got a big margin, 10%. From 20% to 30% is a big margin of votes. A lot of these voters are, traditional voters because, the names that we have here, Carollo, Barrero, Regalado, whichever, they're all traditional voters. So the voters in town are very traditional, and this is the reason a lot of these people get elected. And when we look at some of these things, then we say, well, what happened?
So you're saying that Joe Carollo will win in this runoff election?
That's my personal opinion, yes.
My personal opinion is that 70% of the voters did not vote for Joe Carollo.
Mm-hmm.
70% of the voters did not vote for Joe Carollo. I believe that those voters will come out to vote, but I believe that they will come out to vote and vote for somebody new, somebody fresh, somebody that has not been involved in so many scandals. And to be honest with you, both campaigns actually have very good, solid consultants. I'm not going to mention any names, but they have very good consultants helping them out. And I believe that at the end of the day, in that runoff election, that we will have, or I will have, Commissioner Alfonso Leon. 70% of the votes. 70% of the votes. That's a large number.
I understand, but that 70% of the vote was very diluted. And we had very strong campaigners trying to get that vote out. We had the Regalados, we had the Barreros, we had the Carollos. Well, Leon did a fantastic campaign, effort, and so on and so forth. So when you had like 7 people running for office, those were a lot of people motivating the community.
Yeah.
And then it was a run for mayor. I think that, I don't know, but we had a very small percentage of turnout of voters, really, in general. And what I see is that myself, I think a lot of people are taking Carollo already for being the elected mayor. And I think that we're not going to have a lot of people going out to vote on a runoff election.
No, you're not.
When you're not going to have all the other candidates that were really spending their money in the thousands of dollars to get those votes out for themselves and the others. So now it's going to be a more stringent campaigning.
It will be. I will be. But that brings me back. 70% didn't vote for him. I agree with you that you had several big names. If you're not familiar with Miami politics, Miami politics is run by a handful of these big family names. You have that name, chances are you have a nice chance or a nice percentage of actually getting elected.
I would have to say, Miami politics is very traditional.
Very traditional.
But if you really look nationwide, then you have people like, you have George Bush father, he was president. Then you have George Bush hijo, the son, got elected too. You have Jerry Brown in California. His father was Pop Brown. He was a big name. He's the guy that developed really Southern California because he's the one that built all the waterways from the Colorado River, deviated the water from Colorado River that belongs to Colorado and Arizona, send the water down to Los Angeles. Otherwise, that'd be a desert. So you got a lot of big names also in country politics that is the same thing. Dan Gelber, his dad, Regalado, you got his dad. Carollo, he was a mayor himself, his brother just stepping down from that same commission position and so on. So, Suarez, also his father was mayor. So, you got...
It's a revolving door. That's fine.
It's a political family.
It is, and we have nothing against those political families, especially now with the younger generations coming out to vote. We just need those younger people coming out to vote, and basically those younger people getting into elected office. But I actually want to talk about one of these points that you brought up, which was one of the points that you brought up was there were so many candidates, well-known candidates in this particular race that diluted the votes, which brings us into this next question. But before we proceed, guys, this podcast or this campaign grind episode was actually brought to you guys by Global Compass Real Estate. Once again, for all of your real estate needs, give them a call, 786-326-8885, 786-326-8885. We got another call, as you guys heard. We're getting some more questions. Once again, we are doing a Facebook Live, Instagram Live, Twitter, Periscope. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, please comment in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Elvis Maldonado, Councilman Maldonado from Homestead, thanks for showing love, brother. Manny Rivero asked a question. Aris, thank you for watching. Jonathan, Dennis, Romy, Manny. Look, we actually got Commissioner Kristen Rosen Gonzalez from the beach. Thank you very much for tuning in, Commissioner. Elvis is actually a councilman up in Homestead, or down in Homestead. Thanks for the support, brother. I appreciate it. Love you too, man. I love you too. Manny got a question. Sounds a lot like establishment politics. At the end of the day, it is establishment politics. You want to know why? Because a lot of the people that have been in this game for such a long time don't want to go anywhere. They don't want to go anywhere. And young people the new generation are just too scared to jump in because they don't know if they're going to raise the amount of money. They don't know if they're going to win. And running for office is not an easy task. It's very difficult for somebody to run for office or make that decision to actually run for office. Every single move is going to be scrutinized. Every single move, anything you do or you say is going to be dissected. So it's not an easy task, which is exactly why you normally or you usually get the same people running for office all the time. But that's a different topic for another episode. I want to talk about, before the episode, we actually came up with a few different questions. I did want to base this episode on the previous election that just happened. We want to know, or some people ask us, how can a campaign lose with so much money? And I'm going to give you guys an example. I'm not going to mention any names, but there was an election that one candidate fundraised well over $500,000, well over $500,000, and then you had his opponent that raised half of that, or just shy of that, of half of that. So, and that opponent that didn't raise as much money got elected. Okay, but we're not going to talk about because he's ran in the past and he's got the name recognition or anything like that. This just goes to show you that money does not win you an election. Okay, and this is just this one instance. It's not just this one instance. This happens all the time. We beat incumbent candidates with a whole bunch of money all the time. And one of the reasons why is because the incumbent candidate with the money usually have the money to pay everybody off, and they think that they could just sit back at home with a few drinks, smoking a cigar, whatever they do, and not canvass, not make calls, and not go out there and hustle and grind. Hence the name, the campaign grind. So that's one of the reasons why I like working with the underdogs. I like that challenge. I don't want to have the candidate that's going to have the millions of dollars. Don't get me wrong. I would love the candidate to have $1 million in the bank account, but I know very well exactly what happens when the candidate has that money in that account. They get comfortable, they get lazy, and they think that just because they have that money, they're going to be able to hire the consultant, and the consultant's going to go out and get them elected. The reality is that people want to see, they want to smell, they want to touch, they want to smell the candidate. They want to know who the candidate is. There's only so much that me as a consultant can do for you as a candidate. You need to do your job as well. You need to go out there and touch the people. You need to smell the people need to smell you. They need to see the sweat dripping from your forehead in order for them to vote for you. So that is my take on how you can lose a campaign having the most money, because you don't use your resources wisely. You're getting comfortable as a candidate. What are your thoughts?
Oh my gosh, that's a big open territory there with regards to the campaign. My belief is that if you have a lot of money, and it's like being a movie star. If you're an established movie star, you want to sleep in the morning, you want to go to the set whenever you feel like it, and you want the director to put up with you because you're a big name, and so on. But the smart candidate will hire a campaign strategist, a campaign manager, and so on. If you have the money to do so, it's very interesting to have all the money that you need to run a successful campaign, because money is a vehicle, to get you there. If you have a good strategy, you have a serious campaign mounted, and so on, because it takes a lot of different issues and a lot of resources. If you're a first-time campaigner, it's very difficult to raise money. A lot of people, they want to see, especially if there's 3 or 4, like 7 candidates that we just had on this past election in the District 3, what happens is people don't want to donate to somebody that's going to lose. So they wait till the second round or to the runoff, so that then they're going to donate the money to those that have best chance to really hold the position. However, also there is a thing, this is all very interesting in local politics, but if you go to a state politics or you go to national politics, you cannot always be running, knocking on doors.
No.
So you have to use, your printed media, you have to use your newspapers, you have to use your radio and television, and you have to really reach out to campaign strategists in a lot of these states and set up your plan of where you're going to go, which cities are most important, depending upon whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, where you're going to reach out for your votes, and so on and so forth. So that's a whole different strategy, and this is a reason why I always say the first thing you want to do if you're thinking of running for office, reach out to somebody who does this every day for a living and question them. Doesn't cost you anything. Ask, for their help. Ask them, what do you think? What your possibilities are if you're an unknown, a total unknown, a first-time runner, or even if you are somebody who has a name, that's been a known name in politics, your father, your uncle, or somebody who's been a mayor or governor or something, you need to reach out and exchange that valuable information that you're going to need to really be able to make your commitment. But the fact is, you need money. You need money to run. That's going to give you the opportunity to really reach out to most voters, your printed media, to hire a strategist, a consultant, a campaign manager, and to build your team.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm not saying that money is not necessary for a campaign.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Money is necessary. You cannot win a campaign with zero money in your bank account. You're going to need to raise some cash. But the issue is that there's a lot of candidates that have big names, a lot of candidates that have a whole lot of money, and there's candidates that even have both of them, the big name and a whole bunch of money, and they still get their asses kicked. The reason why is because, one, from personal experience, they get comfortable. They get very comfortable. They do not put in the work. Why? Because they have the name and they have the money. And this actually happened on Tuesday with a couple of people. I'm not going to mention any names, but this happened with a couple of people. They had money, they had the name, they lost. And one of the main reasons why I believe this happens is because the candidate gets comfortable. They have the family name, they have a whole bunch of money, and they think that just because they have that combination, they're going to get elected. And that's not the case at all, given exactly what's happening here in my district. The other reason is because you don't have the right team in place. And that is where I want to pick up where you left off. You need to have the right team in place. For your campaign, whether you have a lot of money or you have little money, you need to make sure you have the right team in place. You need to make sure that you do your interviews for the consultants, the strategists. As always, I say it in most of the episodes, a campaign manager is not a campaign consultant, and it's definitely not a campaign strategist. A campaign manager is the one that's going to be doing or dealing with the day-to-day bullshit of your campaign, making sure the calls are being made, making sure the mailers are being mailed, making sure that the volunteers have whatever they need. A campaign consultant and a campaign strategist are the ones that are going to basically put that game plan together, and it's going to basically make sure that you execute. And how are we going to get from point A to election day and on to victory? That is what the consultant and the strategist do. The manager just does, like I said, the day-to-day BS. You need to make sure once you start running for office, no matter how much money you have in that account, that you work or you find somebody that you feel comfortable working with that is going to basically have your best interests at hand. Like I tell all of our clients, my thing is not about the money. My thing is about winning. This business is all results-based. The more candidates we get elected, the more clients we're going to be able to get in the future. If we start losing, guess what? Nobody's going to want to work with us. And a lot of people say, well, nobody looks at that, nobody looks at this, nobody cares about the wins or the loss. That's all BS. Because you know what? It does take a toll on you, especially when you've run a campaign, you've put all your eggs in that campaign, and you've really busted your ass for that candidate, or the candidate has busted their ass for that campaign, and you lose. It does take a toll on you. You start questioning yourself. I'm not going to tell you because we've lost a lot of campaigns in the past. Thank goodness we've won more campaigns than what we've lost, but those losses do take a toll on you, and you start questioning your strategy, your theories, your basically your game plan. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that you hire somebody that is going to help you from A to Z, somebody that's going to guide you in the right direction, somebody that's going to be able to develop this strategy and this game plan that's just going to help you dominate this election. So I think that if you have the money, you have the family name, a lot of the candidates do get comfortable. And it too, once again, guys, we are doing a Facebook Live. We are doing an Instagram Live, and we're doing a Twitter Periscope. You guys have any questions whatsoever, please comment below, email us, or email me, Pedro@diazcampaigns.com. pedro@diazcampaigns.com, or give me a call, 305-860-1010. I feel like you guys like making calls better because we've gotten calls and you guys have heard it more than the comments here. But thank you guys very much. The next topic we're going to be talking about is basically, oh, hold on. Another question came in. Iris?
Yes, we got a call from Brian, and he says, if he decides to leave the ballot empty, should he vote for the opponent rather than the person that he doesn't want to go for?
Okay, so I guess Brian doesn't want somebody to get elected. Okay, because if not, then he would be voting for that person. Brian, I would never encourage anybody not to vote. And in my opinion, I believe that you are better off if you're going to leave that entire section blank. It's because obviously you have a dislike in this particular candidate. And I think that the best way to show that dislike or being upset at that candidate is voting against them. I don't think that you should leave that ballot empty, because the last thing you want, if you're asking this question, you apparently don't want this person to get elected. So the last thing you want is for this person to win by one vote. And if you leave that ballot blank, guess what? That person that you didn't want to get elected wins by one vote. And that could have been your vote. What do you think?
Well, how about if you don't like either one? That's it.
You write in Mickey Mouse.
Write in your own name.
Write in your own name. Yeah,
vote for yourself.
Vote for yourself or something. Or just Mickey Mouse, man. I don't know how many people voted for Mickey Mouse in the presidential elections last year.
That'd be interesting.
And one of the last topics I want to talk about is basically the lessons from losing. Okay, this is something that not a lot of people talk about. But I do want to talk about that. But before we get into that, guys, once again, we are doing a Facebook Live, Instagram Live, Periscope. You have any questions whatsoever, ask, comment below, whatever. Shoot me an email, pedro@diazcampaigns.com, pedro@diazcampaigns.com, or give us a call, 305-860-1010. Lessons from losing. Ray, I'm going to let you start with this one.
See, the lesson from losing, that's a bad one. You know? If you're a dedicated community individual who really thinks that he can effect changes in the community or the way that things are going, then you're going to run more than one time. So if you're going to do that, it is very important that you're going to learn a lot of the things that you should have done.
Yeah.
That you didn't do. Also, in campaigning, you're establishing your name. So when you campaign in a district, in a community, whatever way it may be, you're building a legacy on your name and on the tradition of the fact that you ran for office, for elected office or public office. I think that the things that you're going to learn. You're going to learn them as you're going along. If you don't have the experience or perhaps the education to know about politics and the things that it takes in a campaign and to get elected and so on, you're going to learn a lot during that campaign. I just don't believe that the person is in your genes. I think that people run for office. And even if they don't get elected 1, 2, 3 times, they continue to run. We know judges here in town that have run for office 8 times before they got elected. Yeah. We just had Manolo Reyes, who just ran for District 4. Is actually the office of the previous, our elected mayor now, Francis Suarez, that stepped down from District 4. And that's going to be occupied by a 7-time runner, Manolo Reyes, who is, a dedicated community individual. Yeah. And now he got elected 7 times. He's run for office
7
in the last 22 years.
And well, since you brought up the name, that's actually the race I was talking about. Manolo Reyes' opponent raised over $600,000. Yes. Listen to this. Manolo Reyes' opponent raised over $600,000 for this campaign. Manolo Reyes only raised, if I'm not mistaken, $250,000, give or take, $250,000. Still a lot of money. But compared to the $600,000, that's just a ridiculous amount. I do not believe that Manolo Reyes got elected because he's ran 7 times. Okay? Running 7 times, 8 times, 12 times, yes, it does give you somewhat of an edge. But I believe that Manolo Reyes got elected because he had a message that resonated with the voters. The people knew who he was. And the only way that people know who he is or know who he was is because he knocked on those doors. He made those phone calls. And I met with Manolo several times. We did not represent him, but he had a very good team. And Manolo, whether he had a lot of money or he didn't have a lot of money, he was still going to knock on those doors and he was still going to make those phone calls and touch these voters one by one.
I guess he learned a lot from the last 7 times he ran and didn't get elected.
I guess that's probably what it is.
But he took a long education. He's a professional. He's an economist, a history teacher in Hialeah, in high school, history and economics. And, he's a great guy. I'm very happy to see that, he got elected this time.
Yeah.
But, in 7 times, I guess you learn a lot. You could, run a politics school.
You learn a lot, and people get to know exactly who you are, and then you start learning from those mistakes, what didn't work last time, what you would do differently, and I believe that's exactly what he didn't just win by a few points. He won.
Yeah, landslide.
Yeah, 60+%. I think 63, 64%. So he didn't just excuse me. He didn't just win. He just completely dominated that election. So. My take from lessons from losing, I lost in previous campaigns. I agree with most of what Ray said, but so we don't repeat each other and we don't echo each other. Lessons from losing, I don't think you ever lose. I don't think you lose. I think that, like I tell my clients, we didn't lose. We just ran out of time. But you don't ever lose anything from losing. You actually gain knowledge and you learn things that you didn't know before. So. Guys, that is this episode of the Campaign Grind podcast. Once again, this episode is brought to you by Global Compass Real Estate. For all of your real estate needs, give them a call. 786-326-8885. 786-326-8885. Guys, this is the Campaign Grind podcast. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to give us a call. 305-860-1010. 305-860-1010. Or shoot me an email, pedro@diazcampaigns.com, pedro@diazcampaigns.com. I want to thank you guys very much for tuning into this week's episode of the Campaign Grind podcast. I am Pedro Diaz. This is Rey Valdes.
Thank you, Pedro.
And we are signing out until next week.